All right, let's get right into this. We're looking at a really perplexing case coming out of the Netherlands. It's all about a lawyer named Arno van Kessel. Now, this isn't just any lawyer. He's known for taking on some seriously powerful people. We're talking huge institutions, even the Dutch state itself. And that brings us to the big question, the one that hangs over this entire story. Why was this lawyer arrested with a big show of force, just days, literally days, before he was set to face the government in court? You see, the timing here isn't just some minor detail. It's everything. It's a huge point of contention, and it makes you wonder what's really going on behind the scenes.
So, according to what we know, this was not just a quiet summons to the police station. No, we're talking about a dramatic early morning arrest. He was apparently taken right from his bed by police, and he wasn't taken to a local jail. He was transported to Vught, which is a high-security prison, the kind of place that's usually reserved for the most serious criminals in the country. And you can just imagine the shock. His supporters, they all gathered at the courthouse for what was supposed to be a key hearing. They're expecting to see him walk in and argue his case. But he's not there. He's locked up in a prison cell. And this quote from one of them really says it all. It's scandalous. It's terrible that this is happening here in the Netherlands. It just captures that feeling of total disbelief.
Okay, so to really get why his arrest is such a big deal, we have to look at the lawsuit he was in the middle of. And monumental is probably the right word. Maybe even an understatement. I mean, just look at this list of defendants. This is truly a who's who of global power. He and his partner weren't just suing one person. They were going after 17 incredibly high-profile individuals. You've got the former Prime Minister, Mark Rutte, Bill Gates, the head of Pfizer. Oh, and on top of all that, the entire Dutch state. The scale is just massive.
So what was this all about? Well, the central claim of the lawsuit is pretty explosive. They were asking the court to make an official ruling on whether the COVID-19 vaccines were, and I'm quoting the allegation here, a bioweapon. The goal was to hold all these officials accountable, and they were doing this on behalf of people who claimed they were victims of vaccine injury. And you gotta understand, this wasn't just some quick hearing or PR stunt. In the Netherlands, they call this a bodem procedure. Think of it as the main event, a full-blown, deep-dive legal battle. We're talking about something that's designed to take years and cost an absolute fortune. This was a long-term fight. Okay, this timeline is so important. Look at the sequence of events. Back in September, Van Kessel actually wins a procedural battle. He succeeds in getting Bill Gates included in the lawsuit. Fast forward to July. A key hearing is coming up. This one is all about deciding which expert witnesses can testify. And then, just before that hearing, bam, he's arrested. And the hearing, it just goes ahead without him. So what's the official justification for all this? I mean, for an arrest this dramatic, with stakes this high, you'd expect a pretty clear and serious reason, right? Well, the first press release from the authorities was interestingly vague. It said his arrest was part of a larger operation involving 8 people, and it linked them to anti-institutional thoughts and the possible possession of weapons. Notice the wording there, thoughts and possibility. It seems to be based on ideology and potential threats, not necessarily on specific, proven actions. Now, to be clear, Dutch law does allow for this kind of pretrial detention for up to 90 days, but there are specific conditions. The authorities have to argue that the person is a flight risk, or that they're likely to commit more crimes, or that they might try to mess with the investigation, pressure witnesses or destroy evidence. It's not supposed to be used lightly. And if being arrested and held in a high-security prison wasn't enough, there's another layer to this. At the same time, Van Kessel was also professionally suspended. He was barred from practicing law. So he's in prison, and his career is put on ice. Now, just to give you some context here, 23 lawyers were suspended in the Netherlands in just the first half of this year. So while Van Kessel's case is obviously super high profile, the act of a lawyer getting suspended isn't, in and of itself, some unheard of event. But as you've probably guessed, there is a very, very different side to this story. His supporters, and some of the journalists covering this, they paint a completely different picture of what's going on. And that's really the heart of it. You've got these two totally conflicting narratives. On one hand, the official view, this is standard procedure and necessary action against a credible threat. On the other hand, the view of his supporters, this is a move to silence him right before a crucial court hearing. For them, the timing isn't just a coincidence, it's the whole point. And what about that idea of him being a threat? Well, a journalist who actually knew him personally has come forward with a pretty powerful contradiction. He remembers Van Kessel telling him directly, "Ido, never take up arms." And his wife has also said publicly that she knew of no weapons in their house whatsoever. It just doesn't seem to line up with the official story. The criticism doesn't stop with the arrest either. People are looking really closely at how he was professionally suspended. The argument is that the final complaint against him was fast-tracked, rushed through while he was already in prison. He was completely unable to defend himself. And that raises a huge question. What was the big rush? Why couldn't they just wait until he was free to deal with it?
But here's a wrinkle that makes this whole thing even more complex. It's not a simple case of one unified group versus the state. Apparently, even within his own movement, so to speak, there was some serious internal criticism of his legal strategy. So not everyone was on the same page.
And then, just as all of this is unfolding, something else drops. A new piece of information comes to light. An explosive document that could either be the key to this whole thing or just another layer of mystery. So what is it? Well, journalists got their hands on a leaked document, and it's allegedly linked to Van Kessel. Inside, there's a list of 400 names of officials and politicians. And what the document says is, well, it's at the very center of this storm.
Because how you interpret this document changes everything. On the one hand, you could read it as a hit list. It reportedly calls these 400 people traitors and suggests that citizens have the right to, well, to kill them. But there's another way to look at it. Interpretation B says it's not a hit list, but a legal manifesto, an argument for a formal tribunal to judge them, with any talk of the death penalty only coming after a legal conviction.
Which leads to the million-dollar question. Is this document even from him? Is it authentic? Sources say the writing style, the deep legal knowledge, it feels a lot like Van Kessel's work. But, and this is a huge but, they stress that this is absolutely not definitive proof. The origin of this thing is still very much under investigation.
So, at the end of the day, we're left with a pile of massive, unanswered questions. What was the real motive here? Was it political or was it criminal? What actual evidence are the authorities holding? And this document? Who really wrote it, and what does it truly mean? So you're left with these two narratives, completely at odds with each other. Is Arno van Kessel a silenced dissident, a lawyer taken out of the game for challenging the establishment? Or is he a genuine public threat, and this was a necessary arrest? Right now, the answer to that question seems to be locked away, just like the man himself.